What's going on, family? Hopefully everybody's doing pretty good this evening. This is going to be a very quick live. Young men out there. When I say young men, I'm talking about men between the ages of 18 and 25. So young men out there. I'm somewhat at OG status because I'm 42 years old. But I just wanted to say I've been seeing a lot of TikTok videos lately where the young guys are letting people know, like, hey, I'm in my 20s. I'm in the prime of my life. I'm about making my money. I'm about making moves. I'm about learning, whether it's getting degrees, whether it's getting certifications, skilled trades. I'm about my business, whether it's online or in person. I'm about traveling. I'm about meeting new people. I'm possibly about trying to move to a new city, new state, maybe even a new country. But I'm about learning the game and getting away from the lames. Do it. You don't want to have regret when you get older. Do it now while you don't have the responsibilities, because kids, and I don't have any kids because I didn't want any kids, and I don't feel bad for saying that. And shout out to the parents out there in the world, especially the single moms, because I was raised by a single mother. To the young men out there, don't go out of your way to try to please everybody else, because that's one of the biggest mistakes anybody, young men and women, can make, is living a life based vicariously through others. Number one, and then living a life based off of what others think that their lives should be, because that opens up Pandora's box for you to be, once you get older, and you get in the middle age category, to become a miserable individual because you feel like you're stuck, because you have all these responsibilities that society or your parents and your friends told you should have. But at the end of the day, you don't really want them, and I say that you should not be forced into having things that you don't really want. So, that's the biggest thing I could tell a young man between the ages of 18 and 25 years old, is that the world is your oyster. This is your time to shine. But if you really want responsibility, specifically marriage and children, I think that's phenomenal. Because that, at least you're not falling in the category of, I want to make somebody a baby mama on purpose. I want to be a baby daddy on purpose, instead of me going out of my way to try to become a husband on purpose and a father/husband on purpose. You know what I mean? Because there was a truck driver on TikTok who put a statement out there talking about, he's 37 years old, and he says women are always perplexed when he says that I don't have kids. And they're like, why, you don't want kids? He said, oh, no. He's like, I actually do want kids. But he's like, but he says his whole thing was, I made a promise to myself, this is what this man said, that I was never going to have kids unless I was married. And that's just a thing that I can respect that, I actually, in a sense, feel the same way. But remember, one of the realest things I heard today is that regardless of marriage and relationship and whatnot, and my parents, when I say this, they know what I'm talking about. A marriage can be temporary. A marriage and a relationship can be temporary, but kids are forever. Meaning that whether you're going to be with somebody or not, you have a child by that person. This is for the men and the women in the room. And most of my parents, they know I'm right about this one. I'm not even a parent, but they know that, because they know that they're always going to have a connection. The kid's mother will always have a connection with the kid's father, unless unfortunately he passed away, and vice versa. So they are forever, the children. The relationship can be marriage can be temporary. A relationship can be temporary. All right. But kids are forever, because once they come in this world, they forever belong to you. And so that's why I say to young men, take your time. Don't rush. Don't get married, be in a relationship, and have kids if you don't want to do that. Don't go off of what people are telling you to do. Go off of what you want to do. All right, because sometimes that can lead to abuse. Sometimes it can lead to all our misery for both parties within a relationship, because a mature conversation did not happen, because two young people sometimes don't have the maturity level. Heck, even people in my age range a lot of times don't have the maturity level to have a reasonable adult conversation without them emotions getting on high. All right. So that's really all I could say about that. It's like, young men, be about your business, be about your hustle. be about your purpose. Same thing for the young women. Be about your purpose. Don't just go out of your way to try to people please everybody. And that's another thing. The idea of trying to always people please people, but you're miserable. What that doesn't work. Most people have to do that when they're at their job. That's cool. But when you're not at your job, because at least you're getting paid for being at your job, depending on the job you have, you're getting benefits. If you own a business, you're getting paid for dealing with specific kind of customers and things of that nature. So therefore, or whatever products that you and services that you're selling and retaining and things of that nature. So therefore, it makes sense. There's an actual real equal exchange happening. But going out of your way to please somebody, to make your family happy and whatnot, this is how a lot of people end up getting mad. This is how people end up getting in jail, domestic violence issues. There's so many things that could be all encompassing when people go out of their way to be something that they're not. Okay. And that is the one of the worst things on the planet, is somebody trying to be something that they're not. Because you can only be the original you at the end of the day. I can only be the original me at the end of the day. And that's the only way I want to be at the end of the day. Because when I was younger, I tried to people please. I tried to be something that I wasn't. It never really worked out. Be who you are. Be proud of who you are. And go from there. You know what I'm saying? But young men, be about your business. Be about your hustle. That's the best advice I can give, because the OGs that I listened to when I was in my early 20s, late teens and early 20s, was when they gave me that advice, especially by the time I hit the age of 22, 25, and that age, like it was funny, like thinking about it back then, so many of the OGs were so, because I was working 2 to 3 jobs back then, so they automatically assumed I was working these jobs because I had children. I was like, no, I don't have any kids. So they're like, well, why are you working like this? Because they all had kids, and they all had to work 2 to 3 jobs in order to support, because their full-time job was not supporting their life and the kids' life. And I said, well, I'm working this hard because I want to be able to save money. If I had that mindset of investing in the stock market, opening up an individual retirement account, buying a house in the quote unquote bad areas of a major city back in, those days between the year of 2005 and 2010, my financial portfolio would be way different nowadays. And I remember when a gentleman said to me, when I first got a job in the OG, I forgot his name, but I never forget what it looks like in the end. I remember getting my quote unquote first professional job working at Pearson Analytical Solutions. And that company doesn't even exist anymore. I think they got bought out by a company named Banjan. I don't even know if that company still exists anymore. But anyways, long story short, when I showed the gentleman that I got this new job, this is what I'm getting paid, this is the benefits, he looked at the material, had a perplexed look, and said, well, what else are you getting out of this besides having a basic job? And I said, well, this is a good path towards a career and whatnot. He says, every decision I make, I want to know how it's going to benefit me and me alone, not just the organization that I'm dealing with. He's like, I might be a driver, because he was a driver / mailman at the corporation I was working at the time, which was Pinkerton Government Services, supporting the Boeing, which is a major defense contractor. Anyways, long story short, he was like, he lives below his means. He lives in a efficiency apartment in D.C., but he owns rental properties throughout the Deep South, and rental properties in places like Florida, the Carolinas, and Georgia, in the mid-sized cities, was way cheaper back in those days in 2005 compared to now. And so he made money off of rental income, and he was a straight-up businessman. And he had an easy job to where he could do both all at the same time. So the moral of the story is, and then he asked me, do you have any kids? I said, no, sir. And he said, good. He said, wait as long as it's possible. He said, I didn't. And at that age, he was at 50 years old. He was 50 years old. He had kids when his first child at 38, his second child at 42. And he's like, I'm glad I waited, because financially I'm able to support them. I'm able to spend more time with them. I have more free time with them. He said, so my life is good. He said, in my 20s, I did not have the maturity level to have kids. And even though he's like, my family went all out of the way to pressure me to have them, he says, I'll do it when I'm ready. And I leave you on this note, young men. Do it when you're ready. It's really simple as that. But shout out to the parents in the room, whether you're married, whether you're single. Shout out to you. I was raised by a single mother. This is no hate. This is no debate. over anybody who wants children, wants to get married. Do what you do in this life, but do it because you want to do it. Don't do it because somebody else is telling you to do it. And I'll leave it at that. All right. So on that note, do the great three things. Like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day. Make money moves or you're going to live like a fool, as they say in Spanish. Bienvenido a la vida. Welcome to the life. Follow. Check my platform out on YouTube. Larry's Anything Goes, LLC. Patterson No Properties, LLC. Yeah. Subscribe. It's free. And if you know it's free, you know it's me. And that's the place to be. Take care. God bless. And do your thing.